Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin my remarks about the bill before us, I want to address press reports about a troubling letter that's been sent or will be sent by some of our freshman Democratic colleagues requesting removal or revision to the minority right known as the motion to recommit. The motion to recommit has existed since the first Congress. It's been a guaranteed right of the minority since 1909. Its use has already been restricted once by a Democratic speaker when House rules were changed to prevent Republicans from actually sending bills back to committee. This restriction surfaced because Republicans were successful in passing MTRs during the 110th Congress. So, in 2009, the rules were revised so that the minority could only instruct the committee to report the measure back, quote, forthwith, unquote, or immediately. Speaker Pelosi was quoted back then as saying, quote, when you can't win on policy, you always turn to process, unquote. And so here we are, just 2 months into the new Democratic majority, which was touted to be about open debate, with an issue about process. Make no mistake, Democrats are bothered by the fact that Republicans have successfully included good policy into 2 bills. Now they want to change the rules again. Put simply, this is an affront to this institution, and I would hope my good friend would be a voice for reason and ensure that we leave the MTR alone. While the letter is filled with troubling statements, let me respond to a few items so that the record's very clear on this. It says the MTR is used, quote, to derail legislation and, quote, poison debate and undermine legislation, unquote. I would submit both bills where the MTR was successful passed the House. H.R. 8 passed with 240 votes, H.J. Res 37 with 248 votes, 30 more than required for passage. 2, the letter complains that the MTR text is available, quote, only minutes before a vote. I would remind my friends that the majority controls when we vote and for how long we vote. You control the chair 100% and can postpone a vote or keep a vote open for as long as you need to whip your members against a policy and issues they would normally support. 3, finally, and maybe most troubling, it's the assertion in the letter that those that support an amendment must support final passage. Should I assume these freshman Democrats are also going to suggest a rule that if you support an amendment that passes, you must support the bill, regardless of what else is in the bill that your constituents elected you to oppose? Will we be expected to turn over our voting cards to the Speaker? I think the freshman members involved incorrectly assumed that being in the majority meant that they were would get their way on everything. As a majoritarian institution, you do have control over many things, but that doesn't mean that minority voices, including those in your own party, are completely stifled. It's not how the House was set up and not the way the MTR was worked for 110 years. It may be inconvenient for these new members, but rather than draft letters, perhaps they should brush up on the precedents of the House. I know my good friend, Chairman McGovern, is a reasonable voice in this debate, and I hope that he's able to convince his leaders that the institution suffers if the ideas of the minority are restricted even further. Thank you for that indulgence, Mr. Chairman. On the substance of this legislation, it probably will not come as a great